Do you have a vision for your health and fitness? I mean, like, are you clear about what that actually looks like for you? And a lot of times we kind of get a little bit fuzzy on what it is that we really, really want. I mean, a lot of people already know what to do for their fitness. So the problem here isn't more information. It really is the daily choices that are being made without a clear decision guiding them. And that's where I'm going to talk about today, because when fitness decisions are made in the moment, progress usually ends up being unstable. And I get it, many of us, we don't want to be restrictive, we want to be flexible with things, but when we aren't clear, it's going to make things so much more challenging. Because when a busy day or pressure changes the plan, or maybe when you're starting to tell yourself, I'm just not into it today, those little things, they matter, because when those decisions are reactive, and a lot of times we don't categorize our decisions, do we? But that's the deal. I mean, fitness really never becomes part of life. It just stays as an option, as I'll get to it someday, maybe. I've got this big goal, but and so a lot of times we don't have this vision for ourselves to where, who am I at that ideal healthy fit self that I'm wanting to be at? So when we aren't clear this way and we start making decisions in the moment, well, optional habits are the first thing to disappear. Like, oh, should I work out? Shouldn't I work out? I've got these other things. I'll get to that. Maybe I'll do doubles tomorrow. I told that story so many times to myself. I'll make up for it on the weekend. I'm free this weekend. Then I wouldn't feel like it over the weekend. Monday's a good start. Monday's always the start day for people, right? And that's where many people get stuck. They think that consistency requires more discipline. I've heard the phrase, and I've even used that some at this podcast, if you can't be motivated, be more disciplined. But what actually changes results is deciding who you're becoming and letting that decision guide behavior. Now, I get it. When you start saying, well, who am I becoming? Who am I at that ideal healthy fit self? And I start wanting to do those habits right away. That might seem foreign to you. It's like, okay, I'm a person who always shows up for exercises and eats salads every day. Yet that hasn't been your standard method of operation. And you're going to start doing that. So it feels weird. And it's easy to go, well, I'll get back to that when I feel like it. Fitness improves when choices are made from the goal, not from what am I going to do today. And that's where I started following some fitness plans. And this is where the repetition comes in. Because when you decide what your fitness vision is, the decisions become simpler. And you stop asking, do I feel like doing this? What do I feel like today? You start asking what's in alignment with the outcome that you're already choosing. And that simple shift, it changes everything. And the thing is, early on, many people treat fitness like this task that they get to negotiate with. I had so many conversations with myself driving home, full day of teaching. I had an hour commute each way. So there's a lot of thinking and promising and negotiating, telling myself I would put things off till the next day or make up for it on the weekend. And what we find sometimes, when we get into that negotiating thing, some days we commit, some days we bargain, some days, we look at the time, and just this mental back and forth, it drains our energy. Decisions remove that negotiation. Now, a lot of times I'll ask people, how good at you at deciding? And they'll say, oh, I'm very confident. I decide very quickly. But a person who has something that they want to go after and then they mull it over, they'll think about it, they'll negotiate, they'll rationalize and put things off. That's not a decision. That's just delaying. That's a different forms of procrastinating. So I'm going to share with you some strategies today. And if your fitness feels, clear, but maybe you're not following through and you're feeling a little bit scattered, let me help you connect daily decisions to the vision that you already have. Head over to talktoperry.com and let's get clarity on how to make fitness choices that actually hold up to your real life. Talktoperry.com, just the way it sounds, the way it's spelled. I'll even drop it in the lower third here if you're watching on YouTube. Now, a decision made from vision. So you've got this vision and you're like deciding, I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to get healthy this year. And you start to craft what that looks like for you. And I encourage you to go beyond, I just want to get in shape and lose some weight. That's fluffy and easy to dismiss. Get specific on that. What clothes are you wearing? What's your energy like? How do you go about your day? How do you grocery shop? How do you show up for your exercise? What sort of things in your mindset? How do you feel throughout your day? How confident are you? What's your posture like? All those things. And when you start to do that, it creates a structure. And when your goal is defined, you can decide what movement looks like most days. You decide what workouts are going to happen. So that's what I started realizing when I got really clear on that. And I realized I was negotiating myself out of working out. I'm like, what is the deal? The thing is, I am not starting my workouts. I'm just thinking about starting my workouts. And then I'm thinking about putting my workouts off and promising myself, a false promise, of course, that I'm going to make up for it. And that wasn't working. And I would drift further and further off course. Where a decision, I'm like, let's make this simpler to start my workouts. When you can decide what level of effort supports your progress, right? And those decisions, you make them once, not daily. How does that feel? Where you don't have to decide each day. It's already decided. So when I started getting clear on that, I'm like, it's already decided. I'm a person who shows up for my exercise. Took away all the negotiation on the way home, even though I tried. But I'd still get home, show up for my exercise. I used to tell myself, you know what, I have to get motivated first. So I'd sit down after I got home and wait to get motivated, and it never happened. So I'm like, that time slot is now taken up with exercising. I got home, got the workout clothes on, started exercising, made it an extended part of my workday. Now, sometimes people might say, well, that's way too structured, way too disciplined. No, it wasn't, because I already decided. I'm a person who shows up for my exercise. This is the time I work out. There wasn't any wavering of, well, what if something else comes up? Nope, I got it done. Now, there might have been some flexibility times in there. Maybe the dogs had an issue or whatever it was. But most days, it wasn't a story that was taking me out of the game. It was me already committing to my decision. That's why discipline becomes irrelevant. You don't have to do that. When your decisions are already made, action becomes clearer. Fitness consistency grows when you stop deciding how hard to push and you start deciding what already happens. This is just part of my day. This is just who I am. And you get into that repetition. That's where many people misunderstand commitment. They believe that commitment is like getting more intense, really putting in more effort. And consistency, or at least the commitment part, is just consistency in the choice. Some days, they allow for longer workouts. Other days are shorter sessions. I think I've shared with you in the past couple weeks about my 15-minute strategy. My plan, my non-negotiable plan to make sure that I showed up for exercise even when I didn't feel like it, even if I felt a little off, even when I was unmotivated, even when my to-do list was huge, I still committed to the 15 minutes because showing up was the consistency. That's who I am. It's not who I always was, but that's who I started believing I am. That vision of myself, a person who shows up for exercise. Both count when they're connected to the same vision. It's just that this prevents that all or nothing cycle that many people get into. I don't know if that's you or not. Are you an all or nothing person where it's like, well, if I can't do it right, I'm not going to do it at all? Nutrition, it follows the same rule. When you decide what food that you're going to have to fuel your body, especially when from your fitness goal, you're going to connect to that. And, those stressful times when you're like, oh, I'm stressed, I got to overeat and I got to do this, I got to binge on that loses its influence. Meals become simpler, especially when you start meal prepping, when you start grocery shopping different. Choices become predictable, right? Fitness struggles when you're delaying things. And when you have your decisions anchored, that's where your fitness is going to stabilize. And long term, I'm way beyond going beyond the 30, 60, 90-day challenges. Timing also matters. I find that picking that time slot was key to me. I've changed that time slot over time, but that got me into my rhythm. Just like James Clear says, when in the beginning, it's more important to develop the habits and create those habits than it is to see the results. And when we're in health and fitness, we want results fast. So why don't we just say, you know what? I'm going to develop my habits as fast as I can, right? So that's a big thing. And this could be morning routines, transition moments throughout your day, blocks that are already consistent. It's just those things that help remove the friction. And that's what I started looking at is like, you know what? I want to be healthy and fit lifelong, not just until a vacation or not just up until a wedding or up until summer, nothing like that. I'm like, I want this long term. What does that vision look like? What are the habits that I need to do? Once I started getting the habits, then I refined them. Now I work out in the mornings. So fitness does not change through pressure. It really changes through connecting to decisions. So when your decisions are made from who you're becoming, being consistent, it stops feeling hard. You're going to have to trust me on this and put that into practice. If you want help, I've already shared with you, hop over to talktoperry.com if I can get that out, because fitness becomes part of how you live, not something that you're just trying to manage and squeeze in and do. You've got this, my friend. I'd love to hear your top takeaway from today. You could drop those down in the comments. I promise I will reply. You absolutely rock, my friend. And as always, remember, it's never too late. We'll see you next week. That's another Power Blast podcast in the books. Thanks so much for tuning in. And remember, when you are ready to recharge your battery, make sure you go to talktoperry.com. That's talktoperry.com. That's Perry. And I want to listen. I want to hear, what's going on. I want to help you in that 15-minute call to recharge your battery and reclaim your power so that you're off and running and creating massive momentum toward your dream. Also, every day, I am delivering more motivation, support, tips, and strategies inside my free community with amazing people like yourself. And we are conquering the mindset and the fitness. I do 52 weeks of free training in there. Plus, I coach and I mentor people, as well as give you access to tons of resources and guides. It's called my Upside Down Fitness Community because we work on a lot of mindset stuff, the inside stuff. And we're a fun group of people striving to make healthier habits in this awesome chapter of life. So make sure you get in there. I promise you'll absolutely love it. Just head over to upsidedownfit.com and you can get into the group. And hey, you would be an awesome friend if you get over to iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast and leave an honest rating and review for the Power Blast podcast. It helps awesome people like you find the show even faster, and that's who I'm looking for, awesome people like you. That's all I have for this week, my friend, and just to let you know, you absolutely rock. That's all I have for this week. I'll see you on the next Power Blast podcast, and always remember, it's never too late. We'll see you next week.